Well, hello there. This is Vitriol's the Chess Noob, learning and having fun with chess. Now, early in the week, I made a video looking at the tactical idea of attacking using open center files. And this is on page 26 of my new book, 50+2 Chess Quick Wins. Don't miss out on your copy. And I mentioned in that video that I'd recently had a game that use that idea, though not necessarily quite a quick win. I think this game has 15 or 16 moves. So let's take a look. Now, one of the things I mentioned in that video was that this tactical idea can often show up in other places. For instance, having a semi-open or even a fully open file stack occurs in some openings, certainly in some gambits, and potentially the opponent might end up opening up one of the center files as well. And being sensitized to these tactics allow you to find potential tactical resources against your opponent, but also being wary of attacks against yourself. Now, this game I played the Smith-Morra Gambit, so that's e4 and the Sicilian defense. So very, very good opening for black. Smith-Morra, take the full center, d4. And basically, generally they should capture, and now c3. So the idea, of course, is diverting the pawn to the side, and of course we would then have a semi-open d-file. Now, one of the things about the Smith-Morra, one of the things I really like about the Smith-Morra, is it really takes the game out of Sicilian game territory. And one of the things is black pretty much has to accept, which is to capture here, accept the Smith-Morra Gambit to maintain an advantage. Now, in this game, black opted to not accept. They declined the Gambit with a6. That sort of makes sense in Sicilian type lines, but it doesn't really quite work. The advantage is now firmly in white's side. I think it's about plus 0.4, because this is not just, a Gambit. I'm also potentially going to take as well. So I capture. So c captures the pawn on d4. I now have the full center, and effectively, as white, I've got some early development. Black pretty much has just lost the c pawn and made a single flank pawn move. This was an interesting move. Doesn't make a lot of sense. It breaks a number of opening principles. Try to take the full center with pawns if you can. Develop minor pieces first. Effectively, you can think of that as a wasted move. Developing the queen is not terribly bad, but certainly white has the advantage. Plus 1.4. Here, develop the knight. They try to push aggressively on the queen side with flank pawns, but of course one of the things that I can do now is just castle the other side, which makes all these moves not terribly useful for black. So the bishop here, they do a fianchetto bishop. I suppose that makes some sense, but well defended at the moment. And of course, I now have short castles. They now play e6. That's fine. And in this position, I actually thought a while. Eventually, I played e5, thinking, that just closes, closes the center. Basically, makes it a little bit difficult for black to make use of the developed pieces. But of course, I don't necessarily have a direct attack either. And here, Stockfish reckons that the better move was d5, basically immediately trying to crack open the center now that I've castled. So now that I've actually castled, black's king still stuck in the center, opening up these center files is really good for me. One of the things with the Smith-Morra Gambit is because I've got a little bit of accelerated development, I've basically castled now on move 7. So that's a move I made. They now try to crack open the center with the king still in the center. Doesn't make a lot of sense. It's not the best move. Here, I keep developing. Take, I now take this way. And notice now, both the D and E files are semi-opened. Okay? Potentially dangerous territory given for black, given their king is still in the center. Now, technically, it's still quite equal, as you can see. However, one of the things with sort of these tricky openings is that it's often much easier for the computer to play. The computer's often not fooled by these tricks. It's much more difficult for humans to play. They moved queen back. I did it the knight. Apparently that was better. They did it the other knight. I jumped my knight forward. Here, my idea was to give a check, effectively, basically forcing, I think, a trade of my knight for their bishop. Here, they take this way, and I now take this way, fully open d-file. Let's watch the next series of trades. Let's think about that tactic. Attack down an open center file. You notice black's king still in the center. So here, that was a mistake. That's a strong fianchetto bishop for them. They probably shouldn't have traded it. Takes, queens look at each other, captures. My rook now commands the fully open d-file. You'll notice, Stockfish reckons it's less than +2. But as what I said before, this is on the assumption that both sides play very accurately according to the engine. And to the engine, it's okay, it's not too bad, 2 points difference. However, the power here with the fully open center file is that black needs to play very accurately. In fact, a single mistake can be lethal. While I potentially can make many mistakes here, and I'm still probably all right. In this position, black needed to play one move, which was rook to c8. They make a mistake. Blunder, they play rook b8, probably thinking they're going to push these pawns. However, can you see the right move? That's right. Bishop to Bishop to c6 with check. In fact, in this position, my opponent resigned. This was at the beginning of move 16. And here there is a forced mate in 8, I think, or forced mate in 7. And basically what that looks like, the king is basically trapped against this open d-file. The lack of development here, they've got nowhere to go. King is probably just forced to shuffle between these two squares, cannot escape onto f6 because my advanced pawn covers that square. Now what this potentially looks like is the king is pretty much forced to move here, and now we have a check. King now forced back. Now we can't give a check here because it's covered by 2 pieces. So we need to bring another piece into the attack, or rook fd1. So now black doesn't have very many options because effectively I can pretty much, that's double check. King will be forced, that'll be double check, king forced into that position, and then that will be mate. So here they have to block, and now captures. Now, rather than capturing this way, this is best because it just has to do with the shuffling of the pieces. King moves forward, back here. King is now forced into that position again, because of the problem with double check. But now we can basically force a trade of rooks. Captures with check. King now forced into that position. And now rook e8. Every square is covered, and that is the mate. Good game? GG. The big takeaway from this game is to recognize the possibility and the potential of attacks down an open file on the opponent's king in the early part of the game, so the opening and the middle game. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.